In this video, we're going to be talking about the uranium sector. This week is very exciting. It's the last week of October, so I expect big things with uranium. I'm going to go over that. There's some really positive news for uranium, and a lot of the stocks are rebounding. We had a good close in Australia. So I'm going to go over all that, so hit the like and subscribe button below. On our way to $200 uranium. I think it's going to be coming a lot faster than people think. So we're going to jump right into this. So we're going to look at uranium here. First off, uranium is getting closer to that 9-year high all over again, okay? So we hit that, it was about $50.80. Now, one thing I do think is going to happen is when we break out over this January of 2011 high in uranium, I think it's really going to signal something to the market, because this was a time when we started to break out because of the spot movement in uranium, and then we had Fukushima. So of course it was a 10-year downturn. But as you can see on the chart here, we're starting to really break out, and we have not really seen utilities jump in yet. Like, you know, we had here, we had utilities in this during this time buying a lot in the spot market. We had long-term contracts starting, and obviously in the previous uranium bull market, we saw this exact same movement. Okay, so as you know here, just looking at a basic chart, you can see how quickly uranium can move within, you know, a less than a year period when you really get the volume in there. So I do think that uranium is going to see a massive move when we break over the $70+ range. Now, I think this could come a lot sooner than people think. Like I said before, the overall market is actually seeing record highs. We're seeing record highs in everything. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to show you the uranium stocks. I'll show you Australian stocks in uranium as well. So everything is getting closer and closer to that 52-week high that we were talking about recently when uranium actually broke out and did the 9-year high. So you see, we do have a lot of room still to gain just to get back. So that's how crazy uranium stocks are. If you follow this channel, you know that they are very volatile, but every pretty much stock, the top uranium stocks that have ran, they all really look the same on the chart. So pretty much at this point, you know, in the short term, you know, it doesn't really matter what you buy, I believe, in uranium. I think a lot of uranium stocks in the long run, they're going to start to break out and do bigger gains, but really everything's pegged to that uranium price. So a lot of people get mad if you're not talking about certain uranium stocks, but really I think every uranium stock is going to do massive gains when the uranium price breaks over $100 and $200. So this is something we got to keep an eye on, and it's going to boost commodity prices, I believe. So the United States consumer inflation expectation is at a massive high. I think it's 25 years overall. And you know, this right here, this is what they actually cover here. It's at the high since 2013, but there are previous surveys, I believe, that have gone up. I think it's around 2002 was the last time it was this high. So we actually, you know, need to keep an eye on this. This is, you know, people believing that their dollar is not going as far anymore. And when this starts to happen, and the Fed has to start to raise, you know, rates, we're going to see prices on everything continue to go up, you know, and that's really what's causing a lot of this supply shortage we've talked about before. We're seeing wheat hit a 10-week high. You know, food prices are going up, and we actually saw a bunch of commodities. Zinc is actually below their 14-year high. And another very, very interesting thing is, if we go down here, we're starting to see lithium, which is at about 292%. And if you go down, you can see magnesium actually broke out above coal. Coal was at the massive high recently, and it's since retreated a little bit, you know, down 4% for the week. But the thing is, you know, we're going to continue to see these commodity prices go up. You know, food prices, agriculture, everything is going up. You know, pretty much the only thing we haven't seen is that lumber, rubber both going down. Lumber, you know, these are all tied, obviously rubber tied to trees as well. We saw them break out like crazy, the prices, so they're just coming down off that high. But overall, I think that you're going to continue to see these commodity prices rise, and it's very, very bullish for uranium. You know, we're still up 59% for the year. Now, some bullish news for uranium that, you know, is new today is nuclear powered spacecrafts can help US stay ahead of China. Now, I've been saying this for a while, that I believe that these small modular reactors in space and these nuclear thermal propulsion systems are definitely going to be the future and help boost uranium, because they do use U3O8, even though it's a smaller amount. When countries start to adapt and use these a lot more to use in space, I think it's going to help boost the market. And no uranium analysts are really putting this in their projections. I have. And that is why I believe in the long run, if we do see a supply deficit continue with uranium and there's shortages, into the next couple years, we'll probably see uranium break over $200. If you see, in the next 5 to 10 years, this being implemented, they'll want that fuel. They're going to want that HALEU fuel well in advance of having, massive amounts of these SMR, small modular reactors, that they're going to be testing and stuff in space. They'll want to have the fuel. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. The other thing is, that was, space. Now we're looking back on Earth. We're talking about these new nuclear powered submarines. So it's very bullish for the sector, because Australia is looking to acquire new nuclear powered submarines. And this is great because, Australia, they don't really believe in a sense in nuclear reactors. So I think it is a change for their company or their country. Now, they do have one reactor. It's like a research reactor, but it's not for energy. So I think the closer you start to see these type of things for the overall sector, countries are starting to believe in nuclear power. There's a lot of bullish news on that. And it's really going to help the overall market, I think. And this is another interesting thing. This is a stock I own, Deep Yellow. John Borshoff, he's the CEO, founder of Paladin, that ran 104,000% last uranium bull market. This is very interesting. So they are looking to, they entered in a 12-month option offtake agreement with basically it's their iron project and their iron ore project that they have. And they can get, if the price goes back up, they're actually going to get more money for it. But really what I want to, touch on with this is, so iron ore saw a run, in the last, it ran from the March lows and it ran back up to, I think it was, so it was around summer, but it since has dropped. But the fact that it has dropped so much and they are still looking to sell this and get rid of this project really tells me that John Borshoff, a very, conservative man in uranium prices and outlook, is really starting to believe that uranium prices are going to go up because they're wanting to get their projects up and going. Okay, so they've got some really good projects. They're looking really for the long term in uranium. And that's one thing I do like about John Borshoff. He's not just looking to, be a quick hitter and get in and out. And they're wanting to have this project for years and years and really run through the full uranium bull market. And that's very important, I think, as you can see, John Borshoff getting rid of this project. It does speak volumes, I think, for the uranium market. Now, Australian market, we're looking at the Australian uranium market. We see all these stocks. We see Lotus Resources, Paladin, and Peninsula, as well as Silex, doing pretty good yesterday. Then Deep Yellow was actually 2.9%. It was up. And we're starting to see them break out their 52-week highs, getting closer and closer. And I really like I like the fact that in Australia, a lot of times when we see Australian uranium stocks up, it means that in the U.S. we're going to be up. So the markets right here, the pre-market, we're starting to see most uranium, the bigger uranium stocks up. They do trade small volume still, as you can see here, small volume, but that is good, a good sign. I think that we could see $50+ uranium this week. I think if we break out $53 plus in the spot market, it's really going to start to run. This is some other bullish news I saw today. So Sky News, they said we would not have climate change if nuclear technology was embraced decades ago. So there are these activist groups coming out now talking about being pro-nuclear, and they really are starting to push this agenda, and they are wanting clean nuclear energy, this new, especially the SMRs, and really, it's a big debate, but they are saying basically that, they think that if we had embraced it, decades ago, that we might not even have the climate change we're seeing now. So it is still up in the air, but it is nice to see big mainstream news covering these type of things. You know, I think we'll start to see, if we break out $53, I think we're gonna break over all of these 52-week highs here in pretty much every uranium stock. Everything's really pegged to that uranium price, and I think we could start to see long-term contracts, maybe even into the next year, early next year. You know, we can see the long-term contracts, especially if the spot market, we see the buying from Kazatomprom start up again. This is going to be very big if we see Kazatomprom, and I believe recently they actually said that they are looking to early next year. That's when that buying is really going to start. And it's really interesting because I think Kazatomprom, it's a way they can hedge and basically buy that spot uranium up from that trust. So it is kind of an interesting way, you know, that they're playing this. I do think it's very bullish for the uranium market. So I think as inflation continues to go up, uranium is still my #1 favorite hedge on inflation, as well as just an overall trade. Even if inflation wasn't that high, just the supply, you know, supply fundamentals and, you know, the demand fundamentals going into the next few years, I think it's phenomenal. So I'm very excited. I will be looking at some uranium stocks. So be on the lookout in a couple days for another uranium video on uranium stocks that I think are possibly very undervalued that I haven't necessarily covered before. I'm looking for that 100-bagger uranium stock. Okay, it's out there. I really do think it is. And it's probably going to be a low market cap uranium stock. So there are still a few left out there. So I'm going to be covering those. So if you guys like this video, hit the like and subscribe button below. And until next time.